CMA é convocado a se explicar no Parlamento Britânico, galera. Fala caixista, sejam bem-vindos ao canal Lourdes XS, tudo bem com vocês, galera? Galera, eu vou exibir aqui um vídeo para vocês, uma parte do vídeo, que na verdade essa reunião que o CMA teve com o Parlamento Britânico durou 2 horas, galera. Pois é, mas eu separei um vídeo aqui de 10 minutos para vocês verem o que rolou aí sobre essa questão do CMA bloquear grandes empresas que querem investir no Reino Unido, galera. Então, os dois representantes que foram convocados para o parlamento são a Sarah Cardell e o Marcus Bockerelt. E o Ben Affolani, que é o integrante do parlamento, né, que está fazendo as perguntas para esses dois, tá? Esses dois são dois grandões aí, são os que dão uma decisão de sim ou não para qualquer aquisição, qualquer fusão que é feita no Reino Unido. E o Ben Affolani, que é o integrante do parlamento, ele faz questionamentos sobre o CMA, no caso, né, qual a visão que eles têm sobre o impacto de empresas não investirem no Reino Unido, a visão no mundo que o mundo tem com o Reino Unido depois desse bloqueio que eles fizeram com a Microsoft e no caso a União Europeia ter autorizado, qual a visão, se é uma visão negativa ou positiva que o Reino Unido passa a ter no resto do mundo, e também questionam também se o CMA tem tido conversas externas com o FTC. Tudo isso está no vídeo, preste atenção em cada detalhe e deixem o seu comentário no final, tá? Eu vou falar mais um pouquinho depois, durante o vídeo eu devo falar algumas coisas, mas vou deixar aí soltar o vídeo para vocês verem que ó, o vídeo está bem legal, galera. Assistam o vídeo todo.
Of your decisions, for example, in relation to merger control, but it could be others, for the UK's international reputation as a place to do business?
So I'll give an initial answer, if I may, and then Marcus may want to come in as well. We, in our work at the CMA, are absolutely committed to make sure that we support competitive markets in a way that is absolutely good for the UK and the UK's economy. I think competition is a keystone, is an absolutely foundational block of UK competitiveness. You want to have strong competition in markets that promotes growth, it promotes innovation.
Everybody's in favour of competition in markets. What I'm asking you very precisely is the international reputation of the UK. Do you consider that at all, either on a decision-by-decision basis or strategically, both of you as the leaders of the organisation, do you consider that as the UK being somewhere that is seen as open to business, yes or no?
Individual cases need to be decided on their merits. When we're looking strategically at the role of the Competition Authority, absolutely we will consider the impact of the decisions that we have and the impact that has for the UK economy, including the reputation externally. I believe that strong competition is a very positive signal for the UK's reputation externally.
Right. So, could I reinforce that perhaps?
Okay.
Because I think that I understand the inference that a decision is made that blocks a deal, and then there's questions about is the UK open for business. I disagree with the premise in a way that somehow the two are connected. So there's a very big difference. I think all businesses know there's a very big difference between building a business, investing in a new business, investing in a startup, creating a new business. There's a big difference between that and buying an already established, well-established firm with established positions. The two are not the same. I think the UK has always encouraged, and it's the CMA's duty to support and encourage open competitive markets. And so all our decisions absolutely are about encouraging and promoting open competitive markets where innovations can flow freely. We are vigilant, as it is our duty to be vigilant, about investments that consolidate and entrench market power. I think I would challenge the premise that there is an impact on international confidence in the doing business in the UK, that the best way that confidence is served is by turning a blind eye to anti-competitive mergers. As you know, I've worked with businesses...
But that assumes that your decision is correct. I mean, what is interesting, as the chair has already said, is that the European Union has taken a different
falando da União
decision.
Europeia, que tem uma decisão diferente da
It
deles.
is not necessarily
Isso é...
unusual or strange for an international body that doesn't necessarily know the UK very well to therefore perceive the EU to be somewhere that is the EU competition authority to be more flexible or to be more
forward-thinking
than the UK. Do you worry about that perception?
As questões foram as mesmas
I would worry about the
colocadas,
perception that the
foram as
UK
mesmas.
would allows anti-competitive.
Os remédios que a Microsoft deu são os mesmos que ele deu para a União Europeia, foi dado para o Reino Unido. Então não tem porquê.
A certain number of those hit the CMA, and the ones that ultimately get blocked are a handful. And the reason they get blocked is only and only in a situation where the CMAs and the independent panel believe there is a real and credible risk of harm to people or to businesses through anti-competitive situations. And so the business environment and the business investment landscape is influenced by many factors, but the ability to compete and the knowledge that you can compete unconstrained has always, in my conversations and in my experience and in the experience of many studies, been a core driver.
Okay, just on sort of the international aspect of this, to what extent, and this is a question probably for Ms. Cardell, but to what extent does the CMA discuss and coordinate with authorities considering the same mergers in other jurisdictions? So, for example,
contato com outras jurisdições, ou seja, o FTC ou a FTC dos Estados Unidos, se eles tiveram contato, conversaram para poder chegar a essas análises.
And what weight do you put on those discussions?
So I'll maybe take the answer generally and then come to the specifics. So the starting point I should emphasise is that we are very mindful that we are looking, post-Brexit, we are looking at a significantly larger number of global transactions than we would have done previously. And that means as a merger control authority, we are likely to be looking at deals alongside other authorities such as the European Commission and the US authorities. So when we're looking at those deals, of course we are highly mindful of the fact that we want to ensure continuity and a sort of integrity of analysis to the extent possible. Alongside that, our responsibility at the end of the day is to look at the impact for the UK. So we're balancing those two aspects. To answer your question then in terms of specifics and engagement, the extent to which we engage with other authorities on individual cases will depend on whether there are waivers in place from the merging parties that enable us to have specific conversations in relation to the deal. In this case, for example, we had a waiver in place that was granted by the parties that enabled us to have conversations with the European Commission at appropriate points along the way.
And the US FTC?
I'm not sure it's appropriate to get into the specifics of the case.
Well, you can say whether you talked to them or not.
We did not have, in the latter stages, we did not have a waiver in place, and therefore we were more restricted in our ability to have specific
How late were the latter stages?
I don't have the specific details of when that position changed.
So what you're saying is from a particular point, say X number of weeks or months before the final decision, you did not have any interaction with the US FTC at all?
Quando eles tiveram essa interação, antes, semanas, meses, foi quando? Foi antes da decisão que eles tiveram essa interação com o FTC?
I've been made aware that there is a perception in certain competition circles that the nature of the burden of proof that the CMA has to discharge, i.e. a comparatively low burden of proof compared to, for example, in the US where they have to sue. It's a litigation system whereby, as you explained at the beginning, in a court-based process, means that the CMA effectively can operate on a future likelihood of harm, whereas in the United States, in a court-based process, they have to demonstrate evidence of harm. Is that your understanding of it, as somebody who knows much more about competition law than I do, and therefore there is a feeling that perhaps if there has been discussions and cooperations with the FTC, it may be useful for the FTC, for the CMA to block something that they may not be able to do in their own jurisdiction?
The first point I would like to clarify is that the CMA will take its decisions based on our assessment of a merger, and we are absolutely not, and I would clarify this because I think there's been some speculation on this, for example, in the press, we are absolutely not doing the bidding of other agencies. We undertake our own analysis, and as I mentioned before, we have our independent panel groups who are responsible for those decisions and take those responsibilities incredibly seriously. The forward-looking nature of merger control assessment is common to all jurisdictions. It's inherent in the nature of a merger control assessment that you are looking at what is the impact of the merger. So essentially you are saying, let's take the position in a market without the merger. How do you think that will evolve? How will competition evolve in the absence of the merger? And then you compare that with the position in the event the merger goes ahead. What impact will that have on competition? So that's a forward-looking assessment in any jurisdiction. We, in common with other agencies, will draw on a whole range of different evidence. To do that, we will hear from the merging parties, we will hear from third parties, we will look at business plans, we will undertake economic analysis, draw on a whole host of different evidence, and we will undertake a forward-looking assessment because that's inherent in the regime. Our standard in the UK is that we have to establish on the balance of probabilities. It's more likely than not that the merger will result in a lessening of competition. The standard in the US is a litigation standard, but the analysis is inherently the same. The evidential base will be inherently the same. That's also true for the European Commission. Our assessment is then subject to judicial review by the Competition Appeal Tribunal in the UK. That is a rigorous process of judicial review. And we take that incredibly seriously in making sure that our case is well evidenced and that our decisions are well founded.
And just my final question, Chair, if I may.
Uma última pergunta
So in relation to
sobre o
the
FTC nos
issue of the
Estados
US
Unidos.
FTC, you weren't terribly clear
Que ela
about the
não
extent
foi
of the
muito
communication.
clara,
Are you happy to
ela
detail
não
to
foi
the
muito clara
committee
explicando
in
como foi a
private, if
comunicação
necessary,
deles.
how many
Se
contacts
foi
you've had, oral
antes,
and written,
entendeu?
with the US FTC in relation to this case?
Contatos orais, contatos por escrito. Ele quer, olha,
So
pediu
you'll be
se
able
ela
to
pode
say,
fornecer.
Over the last X number of months,
Isso aí.
these are the
Os
amount of
meses das
discussions.
semanas.
Subject to appropriate confidentiality, we will follow.
Vai fornecer. Vai ter que fornecer, minha filha. Pois é, galera. É o que vocês estão vendo aí, né? Alguma coisa tem aí nesse angu, galera. Eu acho que tem coisa nesse angu aí. O que vocês acham? Deixa aqui nos comentários o que vocês acham. Se inscreva no canal, deixa o seu like. Eu acho que tem coisa aí, galera. E a gente vai descobrir. O CMA está sendo colocado na parede e é bem provável que o CMA tenha uma coisinha aí errada no meio, hein? Bem, vamos aguardar, galera. Até o próximo vídeo. Fui!